His hands, calloused and worn, gripped the dusty steering wheel, the old tractor rattling beneath him, a testament to his fading hopes. The land, once vibrant, now lay parched and unyielding, mirroring the despair in his heart. He was a struggling farmer, teetering on the brink of losing everything. Then, a tiny figure appeared. A little girl with bright, hopeful eyes, asking for just one small favor, to plant a single sunflower by his weathered fence. He said yes, unaware that this simple act of kindness, this solitary seed, would blossom into a miracle, changing not only his life but the destiny of his entire farm, all because of who her grandfather truly was. Before we carry on, please hit the subscribe button to make my day, and let me know where you are watching from in the comments. The relentless summer sun beat down on Elias Thorne's farm, baking the cracked earth into a mosaic of despair. Dust motes danced in the shimmering air, a testament to the lack of rain, a cruel mocking of Elias's dwindling hopes. His tractor, a rust-flecked relic from a bygone era, groaned and sputtered as he coaxed it across a field that had, for generations, promised bounty, but now yielded only sparse, brittle stalks. Elias, a man whose face was etched with the deep lines of hardship and worry, wiped a bead of sweat from his brow with a calloused hand. At 50, his shoulders, once broad and strong, carried the invisible weight of mounting debts and the crushing fear of losing the land that had been his family's legacy for over a century. His farm, Thorne's End, was more than just property. It was a living embodiment of his family's history, a repository of memories stretching back to his great-grandparents. He remembered his grandfather, a man of quiet strength and deep wisdom, teaching him to sow seeds, to understand the subtle language of the soil, to respect the rhythm of the seasons. He remembered the vibrant green fields of his youth, the golden waves of wheat, the plump red tomatoes bursting from their vines. Now, those memories felt like ghosts, taunting him with a prosperity that seemed irrevocably lost. The bank notices, stark white envelopes that arrived with unnerving regularity, served as constant, chilling reminders of his precarious situation. Foreclosure loomed, a dark cloud on an already sun-scorched horizon. Elias wasn't a man given to overt displays of emotion. He was stoic, resilient, a product of generations of working the land, understanding that nature's whims were beyond human control. But lately, even his deep well of resilience was running dry. The isolation of the farm, once a source of peace, now felt like a lonely prison. The silence, once comforting, now magnified the incessant gnawing of his worries. He ate simple, solitary meals, often just a sandwich and a glass of water, sitting at his rickety kitchen table, staring out at the parched fields, a landscape that mirrored the barrenness of his own hopes. He finished his meager efforts for the day, the tractor coughing its last protest before falling silent. He swung himself down from the worn seat, his joints aching, the dust clinging to his clothes. As he walked towards his modest farmhouse, a solitary figure caught his eye near the weathered wooden fence that bordered the long, winding road leading into town. It was a little girl, no older than 7 or 8, standing by the fence. She had bright, curious eyes that seemed to take in the world with an unbridled wonder, and her hair, a cascade of sun-kissed blonde curls, bounced as she surveyed his property. She was dressed in a simple, floral summer dress, and held a small, colorful watering can in one hand and a tiny brown paper packet in the other. She looked completely out of place against the backdrop of his struggling farm, a splash of vibrant innocence in a world of muted despair. Elias paused, unsure of what to do. Visitors to Thorne's End were a rarity, especially children. He wondered if she was lost, or perhaps simply curious. He felt a flicker of annoyance. The last thing he needed was a distraction, but something in her earnest, unblinking gaze held him rooted to the spot. She noticed him then, her eyes widening slightly, before she offered a tentative, yet beaming smile. "Hello, sir," she said, her voice a clear, melodic chime that seemed to cut through the oppressive silence of the farm. "Hello," Elias replied, his voice rougher than he intended, unused to speaking outside of his own thoughts. She gestured towards his fence, then held up the small paper packet. "My name is Lily. And I have a special seed. My grandpa says it's a sunflower seed, and that sunflowers bring happiness wherever they grow." Her voice held an unwavering conviction, a childlike faith in the power of a single seed. "Could I please plant it right here, next to your fence?" Her eyes, earnest and hopeful, looked up at him, a silent plea in their depths. Elias looked at the packet, then at the parched earth near his fence. A single sunflower. It seemed so utterly trivial, so insignificant in the face of his overwhelming problems. What difference could one flower make when his entire farm was dying? His first instinct was to say no, to dismiss her, to retreat into the shell of his own worries. He had no time for childish whims, no space for such fragile hopes. But then, he looked back at Lily's face, her innocent enthusiasm, the pure, unadulterated joy in her eyes at the prospect of planting something beautiful. There was a vulnerability there, a profound simplicity that disarmed his cynicism. He remembered his own childhood, the joy of planting his first seeds with his grandfather, the magic of watching something sprout from the earth. He remembered a time when hope was not a luxury, but a given. A small, almost imperceptible softening occurred within him, a crack in the hardened shell of his despair. It was a fleeting moment, a tiny flicker of light in the encroaching darkness. What harm could it do? It was just one seed. "All right, kid," Elias finally said, his voice gruff, but with a surprising lack of his usual dismissiveness. "Just one. Right there, by the fence. But you'll have to water it yourself." He watched as her face lit up, a radiant smile that seemed to momentarily banish the dust and the heat. Lily beamed, her eyes sparkling with uncontainable joy. "Oh, thank you, sir. I promise I'll take good care of it." She immediately knelt down, her small hands digging a shallow hole in the surprisingly cooperative soil near the fence. She carefully placed the tiny seed within, covering it with a gentle pat, then meticulously poured water from her small watering can, her movements precise and full of purpose. She talked to the seed in soft, encouraging whispers, as if it could hear her. Elias watched her, a strange, unfamiliar sensation stirring within him. It wasn't happiness, not exactly, but a quiet, almost forgotten sense of connection, a brief respite from his crushing isolation. He stood there for a few more minutes, simply observing, as Lily finished her task, then skipped away, waving enthusiastically. "I'll be back to check on it, sir. Thank you again," she called out, her voice fading as she disappeared down the road. Elias watched her go, a solitary figure against the vast, empty landscape of his farm. He turned back to his farmhouse, the setting sun casting long shadows across the parched fields. The single sunflower seed, planted by a hopeful child, seemed utterly insignificant. He had no way of knowing that this simple act of kindness, this tiny spark of connection, would be the unlikely catalyst for a profound change, not just for him, but for his struggling farm. He was completely unaware that the little girl, Lily, with her bright, curious eyes and her unwavering belief in the power of a single seed, was the granddaughter of the most influential man in their quiet, unassuming town, Meyer himself, and that her small act of hope was about to blossom into a miracle of unimaginable proportions. The week that followed Lily's visit passed with the slow, agonizing rhythm of a rural summer in a drought-stricken land. For Elias, each day was a relentless battle against the encroaching despair. He continued his solitary routines, repairing a broken fence post here, tinkering with an aging piece of machinery there, his movements driven by habit rather than hope. The small, brown envelopes from the bank continued to arrive, their contents growing increasingly urgent, their stark numbers a constant reminder of the tightening noose of debt around Thorne's end. The dust, ever present, seemed to settle deeper into the very fabric of his being, a constant companion to his worry. Despite his overwhelming anxieties, a tiny, almost imperceptible shift had occurred within him. Each morning, as he stepped out of his farmhouse, his gaze would instinctively drift towards the fence line, to the small patch of earth where Lily had planted her sunflower seed. He wouldn't admit it, not even to himself, but a faint, almost subconscious curiosity stirred within him. Had it sprouted? Was it growing? The question, insignificant in the grand scheme of his problems, nonetheless represented a flicker of something beyond despair, a fragile thread of connection to an outside world he had largely shut out. On the third day after Lily's visit, following a particularly draining morning spent trying to resuscitate a stubbornly non-compliant irrigation pump, Elias saw her again. Lily, with her blonde curls bouncing and her colorful watering can in hand, skipping cheerfully down the road towards his farm. She waved enthusiastically when she saw him, her smile as bright and unburdened as the summer sky. "Hello, sir," she called out, her voice a melodious greeting. "I'm here to check on my sunflower." Elias, despite himself, felt a faint softening in his chest. "Still nothing to see yet, kid," he replied, his voice still gruff but tinged with an unexpected patience. Lily, undeterred, knelt by the fence, her small face radiating earnest concentration. She peered intently at the earth, then gently, almost reverently, poured water over the spot. "It just needs a little more time," she murmured to the invisible sprout, her faith unwavering. She looked up at Elias, her eyes wide with conviction. "Grandpa says that the best things take time to grow, and that you have to believe in them, even when you can't see them yet." Her words, innocent as they were, resonated with an unexpected depth within Elias. Believe in them, even when you can't see them yet. It was a sentiment he had once held, a farmer's inherent faith in the unseen promise of the earth, a faith that had been severely tested by years of struggle. He watched her for a few more minutes, then offered a brief nod before retreating back to his work, the memory of her unwavering optimism lingering like a faint, pleasant aftertaste. On the fifth day, as Elias was walking back from the far end of his north field, assessing the damage from a particularly fierce dust devil, he saw it. A tiny, almost imperceptible green shoot, pushing its way defiantly through the cracked earth near the fence. It was no bigger than his thumb, fragile and vulnerable, but undeniably alive. Lily's sunflower. A tiny spark of life in a landscape that felt increasingly barren. He knelt down, his large calloused fingers gently brushing away a speck of dust, a quiet sense of wonder stirring within him. It was a miracle, small in scale, but profound in its implication. Something could still grow on Thorne's end. The next morning, the seventh day since Lily's initial visit, was remarkably clear, the sun mercifully less intense than usual. Elias, feeling a nascent, unfamiliar stirring of lightness, walked towards the fence to check on the small sunflower sprout. It had grown visibly overnight, its two small leaves unfurling with a quiet determination. A faint smile, a rare visitor to his face, touched his lips. As he stood there, lost in thought, a sleek black sedan, polished to a mirror sheen, slowly approached his farm. It was an anomaly on the dusty, unpaved road, its urban elegance a stark contrast to the rustic, weather-beaten landscape of Thorne's End. The car pulled to a stop just outside his fence, and the back door opened. A man emerged. He was impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, his silver hair neatly combed, his posture erect and distinguished. He possessed an air of quiet authority, a gravitas that spoke of significant influence. Elias immediately recognized him. It was Mayor Sterling, the long-serving, highly respected mayor of their small town, Oakhaven. Mayor Sterling, a man who represented stability, progress, and a world far removed from Elias's struggles. Elias felt a prickle of unease. Mayor Sterling rarely ventured beyond the town limits, and certainly never to his struggling farm. A knot of apprehension tightened in his stomach. Had the bank sent him? Was this it? The final notice, delivered by a figure of authority, a formal declaration of his impending failure? His brief moment of quiet contentment at the sight of the sunflower sprout evaporated, replaced by a familiar wave of dread. Mayor Sterling walked towards the fence, his gaze sweeping over the parched fields, then resting on the small sunflower sprout. He paused, a faint, almost imperceptible smile touching his lips. "Mr. Thorne," Mayor Sterling began, his voice calm, resonant, and unexpectedly warm. "I apologize for the unannounced visit. I hope I'm not disturbing you." "No, Mayor," Elias replied, his voice guarded, his apprehension evident. Just as surprised to see you out here." Meyer Sterling chuckled softly. "Indeed. But I had to see it for myself. My granddaughter Lily has been quite effusive about her little project here." He gestured towards the sunflower sprout. "She speaks of nothing else. Grandpa, my sunflower is growing. Mr. Thorne is so nice." Elias felt a jolt of shock. Lily, the little girl with the bright eyes and the unwavering faith in a single seed, the mayor's granddaughter. The realization hit him with the force of a physical blow. He had been completely unaware. The innocent child, a symbol of pure hope, was connected to the very heart of the town's power structure. Meyer Sterling's eyes, kind and discerning, settled on Elias's face. "She told me you were kind enough to let her plant it. A small act, Mr. Thorne, but a significant one to a child. And to me, as her grandfather." He paused, his gaze sweeping over the struggling farm, then back to Elias, a thoughtful expression on his face. "But that's not the only reason I'm here, Mr. Thorne. Lily's enthusiasm for this little sprout and my own observations have sparked an idea that I believe could be mutually beneficial, not just for you, but for our entire community." He leaned against the weathered fence, his demeanor shifting from a concerned grandfather to a pragmatic leader. "Oakhaven, as you know, is growing. And with that growth comes a need for new initiatives. For community projects that foster education, sustainability, and connection. I've been looking for the right opportunity, the right location, for a particular project close to my heart. And seeing this little sprout on your land, Mr. Thorne, has convinced me I've found it." Mayor Sterling's voice lowered, becoming more serious, more direct. "I'm here, Mr. Thorne, to propose something bold, something that could transform Thorne's End, not just economically, but into a vibrant, living testament to what our community can achieve together." He paused, allowing his words to sink in. "My proposal, Mr. Thorne, is this. The town of Oakhaven would like to acquire a significant portion of your land, perhaps the entire property, and transform it into a teaching garden and community agricultural center. A place where children can learn about farming, where sustainable practices are demonstrated, where families can connect with the land, funded entirely by the city, with a dedicated budget for its development, maintenance, and educational programs. And you, Mr. Thorne, with your lifetime of experience, would be offered a pivotal role in its creation and ongoing management." Elias Thorne stood rooted to the spot, utterly stunned. The weight of the bank notices, the despair of the cracked earth, the crushing fear of foreclosure, all seemed to momentarily vanish, replaced by a swirling vortex of disbelief and a nascent, fragile hope. A teaching garden, funded by the city, his land saved. It was an unimaginable proposition, a lifeline extended from the very depths of his despair, all because of a single sunflower seed, planted by a little girl whose true identity he had been completely unaware of. The sun, finally breaking through the clouds, seemed to cast a new, golden light on Thorne's End. A dawn of possibilities he had long thought impossible. The mayor's words, teaching garden and community agricultural center, funded entirely by the city, hung in the air like a shimmering mirage, almost too incredible for Elias Thorne to grasp. His mind, accustomed to the stark realities of drought and debt, struggled to process such a profound, unexpected proposition. The silence that followed was thick, broken only by the gentle rustle of dry leaves in the faint breeze. Elias's gaze flickered between the mayor's earnest, expectant face and the small, defiant sunflower sprout near the fence. This fragile symbol of hope, planted by an innocent child, had somehow blossomed into a potential salvation for his entire farm. A lifeline thrown from the very hands of the town's most powerful figure. The irony was palpable, the implications staggering. "Mayor Sterling," Elias finally managed, his voice raspy with disbelief. I don't know what to say. This is unexpected." He felt a tremor of hope, fragile and almost terrifying, begin to stir within him, pushing back against the familiar tide of cynicism. Could it be real? Could this struggling, forgotten corner of his family's legacy truly be transformed? Meyer Sterling's expression softened, a warm, reassuring smile gracing his distinguished features. I understand, Mr. Thorne. It's a lot to take in. But I assure you, this is a serious proposal. My granddaughter, Lily, sparked the initial idea. But the vision for this project has been growing within me for some time. Oakhaven needs a connection to its agricultural roots, a place where our children can learn, hands-on, about where their food comes from, about sustainable living, about the very essence of growth and renewal." End quote. He gestured around the parched fields of Thorne's End. "Your farm, Mr. Thorne, despite its current challenges, possesses the ideal location, the rich history, and crucially, your deep inherited knowledge of this land. Who better to guide the creation of such a center than Elias Thorne?" His words carried a profound respect for Elias's lineage and expertise, a recognition that cut through years of self-doubt and dismissal. The mayor then shifted, his tone becoming more businesslike, but still laced with genuine empathy. "I'm aware of the difficulties you've been facing, Mr. Thorne. The economic pressures on small farms are immense. My office has been tracking the trends. This project would not only address those immediate financial pressures, ensuring your family's legacy remains intact, but it would also provide a secure, meaningful future for you, right here on your land." He continued, laying out the framework of the proposal with concise clarity. The town would purchase the land at a fair market value, more than enough to alleviate your current financial burdens and provide a secure foundation. You, Mr. Thorne, would be offered the position of Director of Agricultural Operations for the Oakhaven Teaching Garden and Community Agricultural Center, a salaried position with benefits and a dedicated budget for staffing, equipment, and resources. You would be instrumental in designing the layout, selecting the crops, developing the educational programs, and ensuring its success. Your expertise, your passion for the land, would be the guiding force. Elias listened, his mind reeling. A salaried position? Benefits? A secure future? It was everything he had dreamed of, everything he had fought for, but had slowly resigned himself to losing. The details of the proposal began to paint a vivid picture in his mind. Children's laughter echoing through lush gardens, the rich scent of fertile earth, the quiet hum of activity, a vibrant contrast to the silent despair that had consumed his farm for so long. "We envision interactive exhibits," Meyer Sterling elaborated, his voice now imbued with an almost palpable enthusiasm. "A traditional barn for livestock demonstrations, perhaps a small apiary for beekeeping, a greenhouse for year-round cultivation, and plots dedicated to various crops. School groups would visit regularly. Local families could even lease small plots for their own community gardens. It would be a hub of activity, a source of education, and pride for Oakhaven." He paused, allowing his vision to sink in. "And it all started with a single sunflower seed, Mr. Thorne, my Lily's simple wish. It often takes the purest forms of hope to spark the greatest transformations. Wouldn't you agree?" Elias looked at his hands, calloused and rough, then at the small, sturdy sprout that was now pushing its way confidently towards the sun. The weight on his shoulders, the crushing burden of debt and despair, seemed to visibly lighten. A new kind of weight, one of responsibility and immense opportunity, began to settle there instead. "Mayor Sterling," Elias said, his voice regaining some of its familiar gruffness, but now imbued with a nascent excitement. This is a monumental offer. I need time to consider the details, of course, to understand the specifics." He still carried a farmer's caution, a natural inclination towards thoroughness and careful planning. "Of course, Mr. Thorne," Mayor Sterling replied, his smile widening. "Take all the time you need. I'll have my office draw up a formal proposal, outlining all the terms and conditions. My assistant will contact you to arrange a meeting at your earliest convenience, but I sincerely hope you'll consider it. This isn't just about saving your farm, Mr. Thorne. It's about cultivating a legacy for Oakhaven, a brighter future for generations to come. And you are the perfect steward for that legacy." End quote. With a final, respectful nod, Meyer Sterling turned and walked back to his sleek sedan. As the car pulled away, Leaving a lingering scent of exhaust in the dusty air, Elias stood by the fence, utterly alone again, but the world around him had irrevocably changed. The parched earth no longer seemed quite so desolate. The silence was no longer empty, but filled with the faint echoes of children's laughter, the rustle of healthy crops, and the buzzing of bees. He knelt by the small sunflower sprout, his fingers gently brushing its tiny leaves. It was real. The hope, once so fragile, was now tangible, rooted in the earth, just like the little plant. The simple act of kindness, the decision to let a little girl plant a single seed, had been an unwitting stroke of destiny. He had been unaware of her identity, of the power she held, of the chain of events she would set in motion. But now, as the sun began to climb higher, casting a warm glow on Thorne's End, Elias Thorne, the struggling farmer, saw a future he had never dared to dream of. A future where his land would not only survive but would flourish, becoming a vibrant center of learning and growth, a beacon of hope for an entire community. The seed of salvation had been planted, and it was ready to blossom. The days that followed Mayor Sterling's unexpected visit were a strange blend of feverish excitement and cautious deliberation for Elias. The silence of his farmhouse, once heavy with despair, now thrummed with a nervous energy, the echoes of the mayor's proposal constantly replaying in his mind. He meticulously reviewed the financial figures the mayor's assistant, a sharp and efficient woman named Ms. Davies, had presented during their first formal meeting. The offer was indeed generous, more than enough to clear his debts, secure his retirement, and provide a substantial salary for his role as Director of Agricultural Operations. It was a lifeline, a genuine opportunity for a future he had long resigned himself to never having. Yet, a farmer's inherent caution, honed by years of unpredictable weather and fluctuating markets, held him back from immediate acceptance. This wasn't just about money. It was about his land, his legacy, the very essence of his identity. He walked the fields of Thorne's End every day, not with the familiar burden of despair, but with a new, analytical eye. Imagining the proposed teaching garden, he pictured where the greenhouse might go, where the animal enclosures would be, how the winding paths for visitors would cut through what was now barren earth. He considered the practicalities, the logistical challenges, the sheer scale of transforming a working farm into a public educational facility. He spent hours poring over old farming journals, his grandfather's meticulous notes on soil composition and crop rotation, seeking guidance from the wisdom of the past. He also researched modern sustainable farming practices, new irrigation techniques, and innovative educational models for agricultural centers. His mind, long focused solely on survival, now hummed with a renewed intellectual curiosity, a passion for his craft rekindled by the prospect of sharing it. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery hues, Elias found himself by the fence, watching Lily's sunflower. It had grown considerably, a sturdy stalk reaching towards the heavens, its leaves a vibrant green. It was a testament to resilience, a quiet symbol of hope in a world that often felt devoid of it. Lily, true to her word, had visited every other day, bringing her small watering can, talking to her plant with an unwavering faith that Elias found both endearing and inspiring. Her visits had become a small, cherished ritual, a gentle reminder of the innocent catalyst for this profound change. He thought about the community aspect of the mayor's proposal. Elias had always been a solitary man, content with the quiet rhythm of the farm. The idea of children's laughter, of school buses arriving daily, of families strolling through his fields, was both exhilarating and slightly daunting. But he also recognized the immense value in it. Sharing his knowledge, fostering a connection to the land in a new generation, providing a tangible source of pride for Oakhaven. It resonated deeply with something within him that had long felt dormant. A few days later, Ms. Davies called to schedule a follow-up meeting with Mayor Sterling. Elias agreed, feeling a sense of clarity settling over him. He had questions, important questions, about the long-term vision, the operational autonomy he would have, and the commitment of the city beyond the initial funding. He needed assurances a detailed understanding of the framework that would govern this monumental transformation. The meeting took place in the mayor's spacious, wood-paneled office in the heart of Oakhaven. Mayor Sterling greeted Elias with a warm, genuine smile. "Mr. Thorne, I trust you've had time to consider our proposal?" "I have, Mayor," Elias replied, his voice calm and steady. "And I have some questions." He laid out his concerns, his questions precise and insightful, demonstrating a deep understanding of both agricultural operations and the practicalities of managing a large-scale project. He asked about long-term funding, sustainability, about the composition of the governing board for the center, about the educational curriculum, and about his own role in decision-making beyond just the agricultural aspects. He didn't want to be a figurehead. He wanted to be an integral, empowered part of the project. Mayor Sterling listened intently, nodding occasionally, a look of growing respect on his face. When Elias finished, the mayor leaned forward, his hands clasped on his desk. "Mr. Thorne," he began, "your questions are precisely what I would expect from a man of your experience and integrity, and I am delighted to say that we share the same vision for the center's future. My goal is not to simply acquire land, but to leverage your expertise to create something truly exceptional for Oakhaven. Your input would be invaluable, your authority in agricultural matters unquestionable." End quote. He then addressed each of Elias's questions with thoughtful, detailed answers, outlining a robust funding model that included city appropriations, grants, and private donations. He proposed a diverse governing board with strong representation from the agricultural community, including Elias himself. He assured Elias full autonomy in designing and managing the agricultural aspects of the center, with a commitment to integrating his knowledge into the educational programs. "In essence, Mr. Thorne," Mayor Sterling concluded, a genuine warmth in his eyes, "this would be your vision, brought to life with the full support of the city. We believe in empowering the experts, and you, sir, are undeniably the expert." Elias felt a profound sense of relief, a quiet satisfaction. His concerns had been heard, his expertise recognized, his fears assuaged. This was not just a bailout, it was a partnership, a collaboration built on mutual respect and a shared vision. The idea, once a bewildering fantasy, now felt tangible, real, within his grasp. He looked at Mayor Sterling, a man who, through his granddaughter, had unknowingly stumbled upon a struggling farmer and, in an act of profound foresight, offered him not just a way out of debt, but a path to a new purpose. "Mayor Sterling," Elias said, a faint smile touching his lips, a smile that reached his eyes for the first time in years. "I accept. I would be honored to lead this project, and I promise you, we will make Oakhaven's teaching garden a model for the region." A broad, genuine smile spread across Mayor Sterling's face. He extended his hand across the desk. "Excellent, Mr. Thorne. This is wonderful news. I have no doubt that under your guidance, this project will flourish. And perhaps," he added, a twinkle in his eye, "we can even dedicate a special section to sunflowers. For Kai." "Lily." Elias chuckled, a low rumbling sound that felt foreign but welcome. "I think that would be an excellent idea, Mayor. A very good idea indeed." As Elias left the mayor's office, the weight of the world, which had pressed down on him for so long, seemed to lift entirely. He walked through the bustling streets of Oakhaven, seeing his town with new eyes, a place filled with potential, with community, with the promise of growth. His farm, Thorne's End, would no longer be a place of struggle and despair, but a vibrant center of learning and life, a testament to resilience and renewal. All sparked by a single sunflower seed, planted by a little girl with bright eyes, whose innocent act of kindness had, unbeknownst to him, set in motion a profound and miraculous transformation. The seeds of a new beginning had been sown, and Elias Thorne, the farmer, was ready to cultivate them into a future more glorious than he had ever imagined. The news of Elias Thorne's agreement to transform Thorne's End into the Oakhaven Teaching Garden and Community Agricultural Center spread quickly through the small town. Initial reactions were a mix of curiosity, excitement, and a touch of skepticism. For years, Thorne's End had been synonymous with struggle. its dilapidated barns and parched fields a somber reminder of the challenges facing local farmers. Now, the idea of it blossoming into a vibrant educational hub seemed almost too good to be true. For Elias, the transition from struggling farmer to director of agricultural operations was both exhilarating and overwhelming. The first few weeks were a blur of meetings, with architects to discuss the layout of new buildings, with environmental consultants to plan sustainable irrigation systems, with educators to design curriculum. For school visits, his farmhouse, once a solitary haven, became a makeshift office, its old kitchen table buried under blueprints, contracts, and proposed budgets. He spent hours explaining the nuances of soil health to urban planners, the specific needs of various crops to designers, and the practicalities of farm life to enthusiastic but sometimes naive city officials. Mayor Sterling, true to his word, provided unwavering support, ensuring that bureaucratic hurdles were minimized and that Elias's expertise was truly at the forefront of the planning. Ms. Davies, the mayor's efficient assistant, became an indispensable ally, handling the administrative burden and scheduling with seamless precision. One particularly significant meeting involved the hiring of the core team for the teaching garden. Elias insisted on a diverse group, combining seasoned agriculturalists with fresh, innovative minds. He sought out individuals with a passion for education, an understanding of community engagement, and a genuine respect for the land. Among the first hires was Maria Rodriguez, a young, energetic horticulturist with a background in urban farming and a talent for engaging with children. Her enthusiasm was infectious, and her practical knowledge complemented Elias's deep, traditional wisdom. "We need to make this place a living classroom, Elias," Maria said during one of their brainstorming sessions, her eyes sparkling with ideas. "Not just for kids to see plants, but to touch them, to smell them, to taste them, to understand the entire cycle from seed to table." Elias, initially a man of few words, found himself opening up, sharing anecdotes from his grandfather's time, insights gleaned from decades of working the soil. He spoke of the importance of patience, of observing nature's subtle cues, of the profound satisfaction that came from nurturing life from the earth. He even found himself smiling more often, a genuine, unburdened smile that reflected a deep sense of purpose and renewed hope. Construction began with a flurry of activity. The roar of bulldozers, the clang of hammers, and the shouts of construction workers replaced the farm's familiar, quiet solitude. New topsoil was brought in, enriching the depleted earth. Old, dilapidated barns were carefully dismantled, their weathered timbers salvaged for new structures. Foundations were laid for a modern, energy-efficient greenhouse, a dedicated classroom building, and a welcoming visitor center. Paths, lined with locally sourced stones, began to snake through the designated garden plots. Elias oversaw every detail, his presence a constant on the construction site. He ensured that the integrity of the land was respected, that native plants were prioritized, and that the new structures blended harmoniously with the natural landscape. He often found himself standing in the midst of the organized chaos, a sense of wonder washing over him. This was his land, being reborn, transformed into something far greater than he had ever imagined possible. Lily, with her unwavering enthusiasm, remained a constant, delightful presence. She would visit almost daily, always with her small watering can, meticulously tending to her single sunflower. It had grown into a magnificent specimen, its tall stalk crowned with a golden head that turned resolutely towards the sun, a beacon of vibrant life against the backdrop of construction. Lily would chatter excitedly to Elias about its progress, about the bees it attracted, and about her grandpa's enthusiasm for the project. Elias found himself looking forward to her visits, her pure joy, a refreshing antidote to the occasional stress of managing such a large undertaking. "It's going to be so beautiful, Mr. Thorne," Lily declared one afternoon, her small finger tracing the outline of a blueprint Elias was reviewing. "Grandpa says we can even have a special section for just sunflowers, a whole field of them." Elias chuckled, a genuine warm sound. "Your grandpa has good ideas, Lily." He looked at her, truly seeing the innocent catalyst for this profound transformation. He felt a deep, unexpected gratitude for this little girl, for her simple act of kindness that had inadvertently opened a door to a new future. As the physical structures took shape, Elias, Maria, and the team began to develop the educational programs. They designed hands-on workshops for elementary school children, teaching them about seed germination, soil health, and the importance of pollinators. They planned guided tours for community groups, demonstrating sustainable gardening techniques and the benefits of local food systems. They even envisioned adult classes on canning, composting, and organic farming, aiming to engage every segment of Oakhaven's population. The community's excitement grew with each passing month. Local businesses offered donations of materials and services. Volunteers, eager to contribute, signed up in droves, helping with planting, landscaping, and the myriad tasks involved in bringing such a large project to life. The teaching garden was no longer just Elias's project or the mayor's vision. It was becoming a source of collective pride, a symbol of Oakhaven's commitment to education, sustainability, and community. One particularly gratifying moment came during a town hall meeting where Elias presented the final plans for the teaching garden to the assembled residents. He stood at the podium, a man transformed, his shoulders no longer stooped with worry, but held with a newfound confidence. He spoke not just as a farmer, but as a visionary, articulating the profound impact the center would have on the town's future. This garden, Elias explained, his voice resonating with a quiet passion, will be more than just a place to grow food. It will be a place to grow minds, to grow connections, to grow our community. It will be a place where our children learn patience from the sprouting seed, resilience from the enduring plant, and the interconnectedness of all life from the buzzing bee and the fertile soil." End quote. He concluded, "Thorne's End has always been about growth, and now it will be about growing a brighter, more sustainable future for us all." The applause was thunderous, a genuine outpouring of support and excitement from the community. Elias felt a lump in his throat, a surge of emotion he hadn't experienced in years. He thought of his grandfather, of the generations of Thornes who had toiled on this land, and he knew they would be proud. As the grand opening approached, the Oakhaven Teaching Garden and Community Agricultural Center stood as a magnificent testament to collaboration and vision. Lush green rows of vegetables flourished in neatly organized plots. The greenhouse teemed with vibrant life. Bees buzzed lazily around blossoming fruit trees. And near the entrance, bordering the revitalized fence, was a dedicated section, a small, vibrant field of sunflowers, their golden heads nodding in the gentle breeze, turning towards the sun. Among them, still standing proudly, was Lily's original sunflower, now a towering sentinel, its bright face a silent celebration of the hope it had ignited. The grand opening was a joyous celebration, attended by hundreds of Oakhaven residents, local dignitaries, and media from surrounding towns. Mayor Sterling, beaming with pride, stood alongside Elias, who, dressed in a clean new work shirt and sturdy boots, looked every inch the respected leader he had become. Lily, her eyes sparkling, stood proudly beside her magnificent sunflower, holding a tiny, shiny watering can. Mayor Sterling spoke first, his voice filled with gratitude. "Today, we celebrate not just the opening of a new center, but the power of community, the resilience of the human spirit, and the extraordinary vision of one man. This beautiful center, a beacon of learning and sustainability, began with a simple act of kindness, a single sunflower seed planted by my granddaughter, Lily, and the generosity of a man who, unbeknownst to him, harbored a profound well of wisdom and dedication. Mr. Thorne, your legacy is now woven into the very fabric of Oakhaven's future." When Elias stepped up to the microphone, a hush fell over the crowd. He looked out at the sea of smiling faces, at the children eagerly exploring the gardens, at the vibrant life that now bloomed on the land that had once brought him such despair. He saw the proud face of Mayor Sterling, the eager smile of Maria, the beaming joy of Lily standing beside her towering sunflower. "This land," Elias began, his voice clear and strong, "has always taught me patience, it has taught me humility, and it has taught me that even in the driest seasons, a single seed, given a chance, can bring forth unimaginable life. He paused, his gaze sweeping over the crowd. This teaching garden is a testament to what we can achieve when we come together, when we cultivate not just crops, but community. It is a place where we will learn, where we will grow, and where we will always remember that the smallest act of kindness can indeed plant the biggest dreams." End quote. He gestured towards the field of sunflowers, their faces bathed in golden light. "And to Lily," he said, his voice softening, a genuine warmth in his eyes, "for planting that first sunflower and reminding us all that hope, once sown, can truly transform the world." The applause erupted, louder and more heartfelt than before. Elias Thorne, the struggling farmer, had found his purpose, his legacy secured, his land transformed into a vibrant sanctuary of learning and growth. The single sunflower, once an insignificant detail, had indeed blossomed into a profound miracle, a testament to the unforeseen power of a small kindness and the extraordinary ripple effect it could have on an entire community. Thorne's end was no longer an end, but a magnificent new beginning. The Oakhaven Teaching Garden and Community Agricultural Center quickly blossomed into a vibrant hub, exceeding even Mayor Sterling's ambitious expectations. Elias Thorne, now unequivocally the Director of Agricultural Operations, was no longer a solitary figure toiling in despair. His days were filled with purpose, guiding a dedicated team, collaborating with local schools, and engaging with a constant stream of curious visitors. The scent of rich, healthy soil, the buzz of bees, and the joyful shouts of children became the new, comforting soundtrack to his life. The initial skepticism from some town residents had evaporated, replaced by an overwhelming sense of pride. Families flocked to the center on weekends, strolling along the winding paths, picnicking amidst the flourishing vegetable plots, and marveling at the sheer abundance of life. Children, wide-eyed and eager, participated in hands-on workshops, learning to plant seeds, identify beneficial insects, and even milk a friendly goat in the newly constructed, traditional-style barn. Maria Rodriguez, the horticulturist, proved to be an invaluable asset, her innovative teaching methods making complex agricultural concepts accessible and exciting for all ages. Elias, once reserved, found himself thriving in this new role. His deep, inherited knowledge of farming, honed by decades of experience, was now shared freely, patiently, with anyone eager to learn. He lectured on crop rotation, demonstrated composting techniques, and explained the delicate balance of ecosystems with a quiet passion that captivated his audiences. He discovered a latent talent for storytelling, weaving tales of his grandfather's farming wisdom into his lessons, connecting the past to the present in a way that resonated deeply with the community. The sunflower field, a direct result of Lily's initial act of kindness, became an iconic symbol of the teaching garden. Its towering golden heads, perpetually turning towards the sun, offered a stunning visual spectacle and a poignant reminder of the center's unlikely origins. Lily, now a familiar and beloved figure at the garden, continued to visit regularly, her small watering can always in hand, tending not just to her original sunflower, but to a small plot she had been given to cultivate her own vegetables. She often walked beside Elias, her bright chatter a cheerful counterpoint to his more contemplative observations, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. One crisp autumn afternoon, as the leaves turned fiery shades of red and gold, Elias and Meyer Sterling stood together, overlooking the main vegetable plots, their conversation a comfortable rhythm of shared vision and quiet satisfaction. The harvest was abundant, truckloads of fresh produce being distributed to local food banks and sold at the newly established on-site farmers market. "It's truly magnificent, Elias," Mayor Sterling said, his voice filled with genuine warmth, his gaze sweeping over the bustling activity below. "Beyond anything I could have imagined. You've brought this land, and in many ways, this community, back to life." "It was your vision, Mayor," Elias replied, a rare, genuine smile gracing his lips. "And Lily's seed, of course. She reminds me every day that the smallest things can lead to the biggest changes." Meyer Sterling chuckled. "She's quite the advocate, isn't she? already planning new additions for next year's planting season. He paused, then turned to Elias, his expression becoming more serious. "Speaking of future plans, Elias, I wanted to discuss something with you. Given the overwhelming success of the teaching garden and your unparalleled leadership, the town council is exploring the possibility of expanding the center. We're looking at acquiring the adjacent parcel of land, the old Peterson farm, to create a dedicated research and development wing for sustainable agriculture." End quote. Elias's eyes widened slightly. The Peterson farm was a large, undeveloped parcel, rich in potential. Research and development, he mused, a spark of intellectual curiosity igniting within him. "That's a significant undertaking." "Indeed," Mayor Sterling affirmed, "but one I believe Oakhaven is uniquely positioned to lead. With your expertise at the helm, we envision cutting-edge research into drought-resistant crops, new organic pest control methods, and innovative water conservation techniques. It would attract scientific talent, grant funding, and solidify Oakhaven's reputation as a leader in sustainable agriculture. And, of course, it would allow us to scale up our educational outreach, impacting an even wider region." End quote. He looked at Elias, his gaze direct and filled with conviction. "This isn't just about Oakhaven anymore, Elias. This is about contributing to a larger global need for sustainable food production, and I believe you are the man to lead us there." The proposition, grand in its scope, stirred Elias's long-dormant ambition, an intellectual fire that had been buried under years of struggle. He envisioned collaborations with universities, pioneering new methods, contributing to a cause far beyond the boundaries of his farm. It was a daunting, yet exhilarating prospect. "I'll need to see the feasibility studies, the proposed budget, and the scope of research," Elias said, his mind already racing with possibilities, his cautious nature still present, but now imbued with a newfound confidence. "Of course," Mayor Sterling replied, a knowing smile on his face. "Ms. Davies will have all the details for you by tomorrow morning. But I wanted to gauge your initial interest, to see if the former struggling farmer was ready to become a national leader in agricultural innovation." Elias looked out at the flourishing garden, at the laughter of children echoing through the fields, at the magnificent sunflower field swaying gently in the breeze. His heart, once heavy with despair, now swelled with purpose and gratitude. The journey from a single seed to this profound transformation had been extraordinary, a testament to the unforeseen power of kindness and the resilience of hope. "Mayor Sterling," Elias said, a quiet determination in his voice, "I believe I am. And I believe this is precisely what Thorne's End and Oakhaven were always meant to become." The partnership, born from an innocent request and a simple act of kindness, was poised to expand beyond the town limits, transforming Elias Thorne from a struggling farmer into a visionary leader, guiding a movement that promised to shape the future of sustainable agriculture for generations to come. The small, isolated farm, once threatened by foreclosure, had become a beacon of innovation, a testament to the profound impact that a single sunflower and the unwavering hope of a little girl could have on an entire world. The story of Thorne's End was no longer just about survival. It was about leading, innovating, and inspiring a sustainable future. The expansion of the Oakhaven teaching garden into a dedicated research and development wing, leveraging the adjacent Peterson farm, marked a new chapter in Elias Thorne's extraordinary journey. The initial planning phases were even more intense than the first, involving discussions with university researchers, agricultural scientists, and grant funding organizations. Elias, as the appointed Director of Sustainable Agriculture Research and Development, found himself in lecture halls and boardrooms, presenting his vision with a newfound eloquence and confidence that surprised even Burned himself. His deep, practical knowledge of the land, combined with his now voracious appetite for cutting-edge research, made him a formidable leader. He argued passionately for organic methods, for biodynamic farming principles, and for developing drought-resistant crop varieties that could sustain communities in increasingly unpredictable climates. He advocated for a holistic approach, where research was not isolated in labs, but seamlessly integrated into the teaching garden, creating a living, breathing laboratory accessible to students and the CAS public alike. The acquisition of the Peterson farm went smoothly, facilitated by Mayor Sterling's unwavering political support. Construction on the new research facilities began, including state-of-the-art climate-controlled greenhouses, soil analysis laboratories, and a dedicated education center for advanced agricultural studies. The transformation was rapid and profound, the landscape of Thorne's End evolving from a humble farm to a sprawling campus dedicated to agricultural innovation. Maria Rodriguez, Elias's trusted horticulturist, was promoted to head of educational programs, overseeing the expansion of the teaching garden's curriculum to include more advanced topics for high-career school students and adult learners. Her infectious energy and ability to translate complex scientific concepts into engaging, hands-on activities were crucial to the center's success. Lily, now a few years older and even more spirited, remained a beloved fixture at the garden. She continued to tend to her original sunflower, which, a sturdy sentinel, annually reseeded itself, creating a small persistent cluster of its descendants. She was often found shadowing Elias or Maria, asking insightful questions about soil composition or the life cycle of beneficial insects, her curiosity boundless. She proudly told anyone who would listen that her grandpa was the mayor, and that Mr. Thorne was the best farmer in the whole wide world. As the research and development wing neared completion, the Oakhaven teaching garden began attracting national attention. Agricultural conferences were hosted on site, bringing together leading experts from across the country. Universities expressed interest in collaborating on joint research projects. Grants from federal and private organizations poured in, recognizing the innovative work being done at Thorne's End. One afternoon, a renowned agricultural scientist, Dr. Eleanor Vance, visited the center. Dr. Vance was a formidable figure, known for her groundbreaking work in crop resilience and sustainable water management. She spent hours walking through the research plots with Elias, asking probing questions, her expression initially skeptical, then increasingly impressed. "Mr. Thorne," Dr. Vance said, her voice crisp and authoritative, as they stood in a newly planted field of experimental drought-resistant corn. "Your methods are refreshingly unconventional. You blend traditional farming wisdom with cutting-edge scientific principles in a way I haven't seen before. This isn't just a teaching garden, it's a living laboratory, a guerrilla model for the future." Elias, feeling a quiet satisfaction, explained his philosophy. "The land tells us what it needs, Dr. Vance. Science helps us understand its language more clearly. But we must never forget the wisdom of generations who worked this soil, who understood its rhythms and its canned secrets." Dr. Vance nodded slowly, a rare smile touching her lips. "Indeed, many modern agricultural practices have forgotten that fundamental connection. You, Mr. Thorne, have rediscovered it and perfected it." Her endorsement was a significant turning point, cementing the teaching garden's reputation on a national scale. It led to partnerships with major agricultural universities, allowing Elias to attract top scientific talent to Oakhaven and to accelerate the research into sustainable farming solutions. He was invited to speak at national conferences, sharing his unique approach and the success story of Thorne's End, the struggling farm that had become a beacon of hope. The financial stability of the center was now beyond question. The initial city funding had been augmented by substantial grants, private donations, and revenue generated from the sale of produce and educational programs. The teaching garden had not only saved Elias's land, but had transformed Oakhaven itself, revitalizing the local economy, attracting new residents, and fostering a deep sense of community pride. One crisp spring morning, as the new planting season began, Elias stood by the original fence, watching a group of elementary school children, led by Maria, eagerly planting small vegetable seedlings in one of the community plots. Their laughter echoed through the air, a joyous sound that had replaced the desolate silence of his struggling farm. Lily, now almost a teenager, walked over, a slightly larger watering can in her hand. "Mr. Thorne," she said, a mischievous glint in her eyes, "my original sunflower sprout is getting taller every year. It's like it's supervising all the new plants." Elias chuckled, ruffling her hair. "It's a very important sunflower, Lily. It started everything." He looked at the vibrant, thriving garden, then back at Lily, his heart filled with an overwhelming sense of gratitude and profound wonder. "You know, Grandpa says you're going to be famous, Mr. Thorne," Lily announced, her voice matter-of-fact. "For making the best teaching garden in the world." Elias smiled, a genuine, deep-seated contentment radiating from him. Fame was not what he sought. His greatest reward was the sight of children connecting with the earth, the knowledge that his family's land, once on the brink of ruin, was now nurturing countless lives and pioneering a more sustainable future. Later that day, Mayor Sterling visited Elias's office in the newly renovated main building of the center. He held a thick, bound document. "Elias," Mayor Sterling began, his voice tinged with emotion, "the town council, in recognition of your extraordinary contributions, and with unanimous support from the community, has voted to officially rename the entire facility, effective today. It will be known as the Thorne Legacy Agricultural and Research Center." Elias was stunned into silence. His family's name, synonymous with struggle for so long, would now represent innovation, education, and sustainable growth. His grandfather, his parents, all the Thornes who had toiled on this land, would have their legacy honored, immortalized in a way he could never have imagined. "And," Mayor Sterling continued, a twinkle in his eye, "we've ensured that a significant portion of the sunflower field will forever be designated as the Lily's Hope Garden, a permanent tribute to the seed that started it all." Elias felt a lump in his throat, his eyes misting slightly. He looked at the mayor, then out the window at the vibrant fields, at the majestic sunflowers, their golden heads swaying gently in the breeze. He remembered the parched earth, the despair, the overwhelming fear of losing everything. And now, this. A profound sense of peace settled over him, a realization that his purpose had been fulfilled beyond his wildest dreams. "Thank you, Mayor," Elias finally managed, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for everything. For seeing the potential, for believing in a struggling farmer, and for trusting a little girl with a single seed." The Thorne Legacy Agricultural and Research Center stood as a beacon of hope, a powerful testament to the transformative power of kindness, vision, and the enduring magic of a single sunflower seed. Elias Thorne, once a man on the brink of losing everything, had not only saved his farm, but had cultivated a future of unparalleled growth, for his community, for the land, and for himself. His story, deeply rooted in the soil, had blossomed into a profound legacy, inspiring generations to come.